and welcome to another edition of the Absolute Packer podcast. This is episode 60. Holy cow, we've made it 60 episodes. That's incredible.
It is incredible.
That's either a really good thing or a really bad thing. I guess it depends on how you look at it. But we made it 60, and I like to come up with silly off-the-wall titles, and this one I came up with at the very last minute, but it seems to fit. The Green Bay Meh-ckers. Like, meh, that game was very meh. So, with that said, I am Andrew Hetzel, and we have Elliot Christensen and Jeremy Hautala. What's up, guys?
Hey. 10-3. That's all I
Go Fat Go. 10.
That's all I gotta say.
This is true. This is true. I need to come around to that mode of thinking, and I think slowly but surely I am coming around to that. But it's good to have Jeremy back. He missed last week. He had some stuff going on, but we got the band back together complete here. But yeah, that's one of the first bullets I got here is 10-3. Can you believe it? And looking back on my predictions, I think I had them going 8-8 at best. Thinking they could easily go 7-9. Could they have gone 9-7? Maybe, but that's where I kind of call it 8-8. And being 10-3 with 3 games left, it's pretty incredible that they're where they're at. And I think we can say without qualification that this team isn't even come close to playing a complete game. I mean, they've had games where one side of the ball has played really well and the others have played okay. They've had some where, and vice versa, going up and down the line with offense, defense, special teams. I mean, you look at the first game and the defense played lights out, right? The offense looked like shit. And then from there, we had that run where the offense looked great for 4 weeks and the defense started to kind of slide. And the one constant, I guess, was bad special teams, but even that turned around in this last game. But I digress. So the Packers went to 10-3. They beat the Washington Redskins 20-15, Lambeau Field. I mean, that score is pretty much, a lot of times people say the score doesn't indicate how close or how far away the game was. That's a pretty accurate score. They never really, they were up, I think, at one point 14-0, but they started to sputter, and then after the defense kind of held their own, but then they started to let the Redskins back in, and the offense couldn't do anything. And so, 20-15 with most teams, you'd be like, okay, I'll take it. But the Redskins are pretty hapless. I'll say that. So I don't know. It is what it is. And I myself, Andy, I was able to attend the game at Lambeau, and it was a very meh blah game. But
no wonder you felt that way.
But hey, look, I'll say this. Any chance to go to Lambeau is great. And the weather yesterday was unbelievably
Beautiful.
Nice. For this time of year in Wisconsin, it was crazy. I want to say it was low 40s, no wind, sunny. I mean, it was for early mid-December, you don't see that. So that was really nice to see that. And I mean, yeah, they did win. But and I will say this too real quick. The Lambeau experience is getting better. The curve in terms of, I'll say, audience participation and the crowd and the noise and this and that. It's getting better each week. And overall, it's not a huge spike. It's kind of a lower angle curve up, but it's going up. There was a couple times on third down where the crowd got pretty damn loud. I was even kind of taken aback. They have this like decibel meeting reader on the jumbotrons when they go get loud Lambeau, and I think it's probably just a bunch of bullshit, whatever number they put up there. But the actual loudness was pretty high compared to past years, even when they were doing well. Not just last year when they were doing bad and whatnot. So, anywho, kind of rambled on that, but turn it over to Jerry
Maguire.
Jeremy and Elliot, what were your impressions of the game, Jeremy?
The same as you. It was kind of blah, meh. It was kind of like I need another beer, type of a game. But you know what, though? I think we talked about this in our chat that I really expected this to be a close game. I think I predicted 23-10 or something like that. I did not anticipate this being a blowout. The NFL, if you look at how things play out, matchups are everything. Like I just thought their defensive line matched up well against us as far as being able to, disrupt Aaron Rodgers and the run game and stuff like that. And their run game is really good. I mean, that's the best part of their team is Adrian Peterson and Darius Geis. They had 121 yards rushing yesterday. So, it was okay, but, they didn't gash us too bad. So, because their pass game was not a non-threat pretty much the whole game. But, after the game, we started chatting and stuff like that. And I was getting negative Nancy. And I just sat there and I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking back to all of our episodes like last year. And man, we were so negative. We were just like, we're not going to make the playoffs. We're going to sit at home, watch everybody, going to this, trying to get to the Super Bowl. And we're going nowhere. We're 10-3, and we're in position to get in the playoffs. We're in position to win the North. We're in position right now as a number 2 seed.
Yeah.
In the NFC.
Remarkable.
In the NFC. So if the season ended today, we would have a first round bye in the playoffs and play in the divisional round. Which increases your odds of getting to the Super Bowl. So, and I think for this team, you need that. You need to play the least amount of games to make your path pretty easy. So. That's
great if we didn't have to play games, right?
right. So I just got to look at the positives. I mean, you are spot on that, this team is less than perfect, but we went into this season knowing that their offense was going to be a question mark. I think we all knew that. Their defense, I think, is probably the part of the team that really disappoints many because of everything that was put into the defense and all the expectations that were supposed to come, and we're just not there. But in hindsight, 10-3, leading the North by 1 game, and right now we're currently the number 2 seed, and we're sitting pretty nice as long as we can win 2 of the next 3 games. Here's the deal: if we can win next week against Chicago and Detroit, but lose against Minnesota, we will still win the North because we're
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, there's so much to be thankful for when you think about it and happy about. And a couple other things. I think I read somewhere that this Matt LaFleur is the first rookie head coach in Green Bay Packers history to hit 10 wins.
Right.
So, and that's, hell, they're the oldest team in the league. This is the 100th year. So that's definitely something to be proud of. And I had to kind of do a double take on that. So good for LaFleur. And, when you talk about the defense, and like to say what we thought was we knew the offense was going to be kind of work in progress, to your point. The special teams, I don't know what's going on there. Mason, I'll say this. I'll start with the positives on that side of the ball, though. Mason Crosby's having like a Pro Bowl year, like legit Pro Bowl. Like he might actually make a Pro Bowl.
1 missed field goal all year.
He's playing outstanding. And good for him. I've knocked on the guy, but hey, I'll eat crow on him. He's doing outstanding, and that's good. The rest of the punt block or the punt and kick return units are whatever. But yet with the defense, the amount of capital and the draft picks again, and then the free agents, obviously. Think about where this team, not just the defense, but where this team would be without the Smith brothers. That's crazy. But here's what it's kind of getting down to, and this is the one thing that's very interesting, that when I take a look at I look at the offense, defense, and the special teams, more so just the offense and the defense, but I go, okay, part of it for me that's a head scratcher is that, have you ever seen an NFL team this healthy this late in the year?
A Packer team this healthy. And
let alone an NFL.
Jesus.
They're all preferred starters on every position on offense and defense, I think. Where do they not have? I don't think they, Kevin King didn't play yesterday, but he's not, he banged up his shoulder or something. So I think it was Josh Jackson played. But literally outside of that, and maybe a guy here and there 1 week or something like that, they have had all 22 offense and defense what they've wanted. So what I'm saying is, in the past, you're like, okay, well, they should be this good, but they got 7 guys on IR. You know what I mean? And it's like, you look at this and you go, they got everybody they want.
Right.
Go ahead.
The cumulative amount of games that our starters have missed this year is significantly less than we've ever experienced in the past decade. Brian Bulaga missed a few games here and there. Obviously, Lane Taylor was, after the second game, put on IR. But other than that,
But they plugged in Jenkins, and I would say he's a preferred starter.
And he will be. He'll be the starter from here on out. There's no question about that. But just getting back to the health aspect of it, I mean, this, like you said, this team has been healthy. We've missed a few starters here and there, but nothing substantial like the 49ers now. I mean, they're going to be going out with 3 of their big players probably for the rest of the season. And they lost their starting center with a torn pectoral, I think it was.
Yeah, Wickman Richburg or something.
Weston Richburg.
What a name.
Yeah, you're like, what a white guy name.
That's what I said. That's what I said. I'm like, my word. Go ahead.
I mean, they lost 3 very integral in D Ford as well. Their big free agent signing this offseason.
Is he on IR?
No, he's going to be out for multiple weeks. They don't know how long, but I would assume probably for the rest of the regular season.
Yeah.
So they lost, and Richard Sherman too. Pulled hamstring, and that, a hamstring is a injury that is so difficult to come back from. It's just very, very
finicky.
Yeah. So, we are in great health. Heading into the stretch run here, we have 3 tremendously huge games coming up here. Chicago, at Minnesota, ending at Detroit. And we are healthy, and that's all we can ask for. We're not playing the best football, but we're there. We're going to be there. And all we have to do is just show up and put a good showing and win. And then the rest is just history, because we're going to get into the playoffs.
Is Minnesota the last game of the year or the
second last game? Monday Night Football.
I thought that Minnesota was the last game. Jeez.
Nope,
so it's the Lions. Okay. Yeah, and what's funny is, I mean, while the Packers have been playing great, look at some of these other. I mean, the Vikings are on our ass. My God, they continue to win. They're on a game behind us, basically. I mean, I guess a game and a half because of tiebreaker or whatever. But it's going to come down to the wire in terms of who wins the North. Somebody said the other day, this was interesting, just about the state of the NFL in general. San Francisco went from basically a wild card to the overall number 1 seed in one weekend. Game. It's crazy, because Seattle lost. Nobody saw Seattle losing. Yep. Yeah. Seattle got beat pretty good against the Rams, and the Rams are turning around. But it is truly a week-to-week league. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and just to cap that point off, San Francisco plays at Seattle last game of the season, which I think will be flexed out to Sunday Night Football to end it. Think about that. That's for the number 1 seed.
All the marbles.
Yeah,
that's going to be a black and blue game there, man.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will. Okay. Next bullet here. So the offense. Basically, what I wrote here was the offense is morphed into a Frankenstein version of the old late-term McCarthy offense, with some things sprinkled in with Aaron Jones. More often than not, the offenses look completely out of sorts. Now, I'll say it's looked that way for the past month, not the entire year. They've had spurts, but, I mean, you want to be playing your best football right now, or starting to play your best football, and, I don't know what the hell's going on with the offense. And, beneath... I mean, I kind of have some theories, and we've been going back and forth on our Slack channel on that before this, after the game yesterday and before we got on the podcast today. But the next bullet here I have is the 800-pound gorilla in the room is the play of Aaron Rodgers. We can't really tell where his subpar play ends or begins, but Rodgers hasn't been playing well for at least a month. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, really, He's not above reproach. Is he bad? No. Is he average? Looking like it. He's got, he doesn't have a ton of weapons to throw to. That we've kind of hit that ad nauseum. He's got Adams, who's a great receiver. He's basically got no tight ends. Maybe they'll get some youth emerge the last quarter of the season here, but he's not throwing to the likes of the receivers. He was not throwing to Jordy, Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, and guys like that anymore. But the film don't lie, and when you're looking at the film and you're seeing concepts and routes and whatnot, that where there's guys open and he consistently doesn't even look at them, it's troubling. And one of your theories was, Jeremy, that I shouldn't say maybe not a theory, it's a fact on the film, really. It's like you get the feeling Rodgers either thinks he has to play hero ball or he has to carry the whole damn team, but he doesn't. And I don't know if you can teach an old dog new tricks kind of a thing, but his career is almost, there's so many parallels to the end of Favre's career to the end of Rodgers here, the nearing the end here, and that, Favre is starting to kind of, he always threw more picks than Aaron, we know that, but he was starting to kind of fizzle out, and then Mike McCarthy comes in and straightens him out, right? And he has one of his best statistical seasons. But it took him a couple of years to get there, and then Rodgers is kind of in the same spot, and LaFleur is almost charged to come in here and I don't want to say rein him in. That's not because he's not like a Favre in that way, but make him play with where a 36-year-old quarterback should probably be playing versus a guy who perennially thinks he's 26 and in the prime of his career. To your point, Jeremy, I mean, you mentioned his skills have declined. I think some people are in denial on that. His skills have declined. They have. Have they fallen off a cliff? No. Are they declining? Yes. So, and I made the comment that in the Slack channel that it's like right now, the Packers are going to have to make as an organization, are going to have to make a concerted effort to either to build the team and the offense around an aging QB, or they're going to have to do something else. And what is something else? Draft another quarterback and move on from Rodgers? I mean, that's not going to happen. So it's kind of like they're painted in a corner. If you want to make it work, they're going to have to. And what I mean by that is he needs more talent around him. He can't just do it all himself. He needs probably, one if not two new, speedy, fast, younger wide receivers. Aaron Jones is great. Devontae Adams is great, but the drop off after Adams is pretty precipitous in terms of talent, speed, and all that. So that's my kind of take on it. What do you think?
If you look at the good offenses in NFL history, and I go back, even though Dallas was not a good offense, they were freaking efficient and they were just killers back in the 90s when they had Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, and Jay Novacek. They had three weapons that could, if one was off, the other one would take their place, and right now you have two. So I think that kind of holds this team back from progressing to being a pretty good offense just because there's not a third weapon out there. So to your point, do they need weapons? Yes. And I think I've touched on this in our Slack talks. I think the fans have all been trained, and maybe the organization as well as Rodgers have all been trained to think that he will carry this team to, Disneyland.
Disneyland.
We are beyond that. It's not.
I want to go to the Princess Castle.
You're not driving down and you're not on the float. No, you're not, Andy. So I think we all have to come to this realization that he needs help and he needs a team around him in order to actually be within his current capabilities. He doesn't have the ability to put a team on his back and carry him anymore. He doesn't have the ability to see 90 degrees of the whole field and be able to get 12 men on the field and get a free play. Just not seeing any of the stuff that we have seen in the past decade from him that has made him arguably one of the better quarterbacks in NFL history. We're not seeing any of those traits coming out this year. I don't know if it's, the fact that he's learning a new offense, the fact that he has, like you said, lack of weapons. I truly don't know. But I think the one thing that we all need to come to the realization of is that he is not the same quarterback that he once was, and he most likely never will be. He's on the wrong end of 30, he's coming up on 40. Tom Brady, he's looking more human the past couple games. So when you get older, things aren't as easy as they used to be, and you don't recover as quickly as you used to. And the thing with Aaron I'm seeing is his ability. The one thing that he could do so well as early as maybe a few years ago, when the blitzes come in.
Yep.
He was laser sharp focus.
He would destroy teams that blitzed him.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat in his career. This was like maybe 2016. In his career against a blitz, he had like 130 quarterback rating, which
just obscene.
Quarterback rating is 150 something. So you put that and you think about it, you're like, wow, that's pretty dominant. This year, I don't know what it is.
He looks like he can barely pick up a blitz, like recognize a blitz. It's weird.
Yeah.
Sometimes it looks like he's getting caught off guard on a simple blitz. I'm looking at it. I'm like, here comes a blitz. And then he's holding it, and you're like, what are you doing?
Well, it's funny too because I watched on NFL Network 2 weekends ago. They had a game, the 2014 game against Seattle in the NFC Championship, and I was watching Aaron make all these throws during
Wait a minute. Why were you watching this?
because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Okay, you answered the question.
And I like to watch the bad so that hopefully we can make better with that. But no, I just watched his mechanics, his footwork, and they were textbook. Where today he's throwing off his back foot, he's throwing sidearm like Dan Quisenberry did. I don't get it. Like what's wrong? Like why can't he actually take a 3-step drop and throw with the proper mechanics? The first play to Graham in the first quarter there, that was textbook Aaron Rodgers. It looked perfect. He stepped into the throw. He had his shoulder into the throw. He looked great. But then there were throws that he was just like, dude, you're not ambidextrous. Like there's no way that you can be that flexible and just make those types of throws. And it affects his accuracy. And the one thing I think, if there's anything that you can really pinpoint to say that has decreased in his game, it's his long ball. His touch used to be so good, and now he's overthrowing guys. He's underthrowing guys. He's not getting air under the ball, or he's getting too much air under the ball. It's just, there's a combination of things that really, when a quarterback decreases, usually it starts with their arm, and you're starting to see some of that with him. His arm talent is not as good as it used to be, but I'll take it. It's better than Tim Boyle, that's for sure. You got to take the good bad.
One thing that I saw on Twitter, Aaron Nagler from Gene Said TV, he had made a comment when you talk about how he looked good early and he made the throws to Jimmy Graham, and he had good mechanics and all that. One thing I've noticed and that Nagler pointed out was that basically, the first scripted plays of every game, the first 15, they usually script and they do great. Usually the offense looks pretty damn good. And then that's normally around the first quarter, right? Is the first 15 kind of a thing, depending on how well they do in the opening drive and whatnot. But the trend you see is after the first 15, the offense falls apart a lot and they'll disappear for the second and third quarter, and I guess that means they're not reacting to in-game stuff, or Rodgers is not, or LaFleur is not, or both, or whatever. But that's a trend that you've seen a lot lately too. And that's that kind of, I don't know. It's just perplexing. To your point, there's certain things that, like every athlete declines. You don't want to believe it, but he used to have his footwork is a mess, and you wonder if the big injuries, meaning the 2 broken collarbones, for all we know, I think we brought it up earlier this year. It's the long ball, the accuracy on his long throws and whatnot, and even his mechanics. He shattered his collarbone in his throwing arm. What did that do anything?
Of course,
long term, you have to think. And he didn't break it when he was 22. He broke it when he was 35, 34.
Right.
34. So those things have to be taken. And it wasn't on the other shoulder. It was on his throwing shoulder. I don't know. I don't want to just make stuff up that I don't know a whole lot about, but there's got to be something to that. And he seems to be a little more skittish in the pocket too, and he bails out a lot. Obviously holds the ball forever. I think, the only way they're going to be successful, and by successful, I mean make it to another Super Bowl with Rodgers, I think, is if he thinks he's going to get anywhere, and if LaFleur ends up thinking that doing this off-schedule stuff, not playing in rhythm, playing sandlot ball, like with the McCarthy stuff, if they think they can make that work, they're insane. Which is kind of odd in a way, because I made the comment in the Slack channel that Rodgers he's otherworldly talented athletically and just with the ball, throwing the ball and whatnot, but he's also an extremely smart cerebral quarterback. And you figure he would know things like this,
right.
That you can't run an offense like the way they're running it. But I don't know. It's more than just a hiccup. It seems to be a trend when it's been going on for better part of a year and McCarthy's been gone.
I'm still holding out hope. And I know this is just, a shot in the dark, but I'm holding out hope that this team is holding back for the playoffs.
That'd be nice.
We're gonna see an explosion just come out, and we're gonna see all these offensive touchdowns, and we're gonna be like, are they not gonna score? I mean, it's just that's what I'm hoping for. That they're just holding back. I don't believe that because you're in it to win it.
Yep.
Whether it's you got to get the 16 games first before you can get to the last 3 or 4. Depending on what route you take to the Super Bowl. But I hope that the last 3 games here, we just come out blazing, and then we get into the playoffs. We come on a hot streak.
They put Kyler Fackrell at inside linebacker, all that kind of shit. The first playoff game, they got half the guys in different positions. They got Lazard lined up at tight end, like I was saying. God. You guys were not big on that.
No. Hey, they moved James Looney to tight end, so.
What the hell is that all about? That reminds me, it's like when they moved Mike Neal from defensive lineman to outside linebacker. You're like,
and Nick Perry.
Nick Perry still on the street.
Yep.
Can you believe that? We were paying that guy $12 million a year, and he's still on the street. Ooh. Well,
I've only heard one team actually call him. One team.
The Packers?
Seattle. The Packers. Jesus.
Packers called him and said, "Would you take $1?" No, I don't know. That's all I got. It's pretty astounding, but yeah. So on that note about the long ball and just the offense in general with Rodgers, me being what's interesting, the more I go to games now, I usually go to a couple games a year, and when I go there, you're basically I try to think that I'm watching the all 22, right? Because you kind of are,
Mm-hmm.
So I try to put
Right.
myself in that mindset, and I try to look at things differently when I'm at the game. And I mean, it's hard to at times, but I have a bullet here that Rodgers missed a streaking Jimmy Ed West Graham. That's my new nickname for him. I'll tell you what, it's painful watching Jimmy Graham run now. He overthrew him a little bit. Should have been a TD, even with Jimmy Graham running, because he had a step on the guy. And he also missed a wide open Aaron Jones on a wheel route. He was wide open, and he had to throw some air under it, but he airmailed him by a few yards. It was not pretty. Refuses to take a lot of those short dump off passes. We keep saying, why doesn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? If it doesn't happen now, I don't think it's ever going to happen. I mean, I don't know, unless, like you said, they're just playing possum, and then they're going to pull some Belichick conspiracy thing in the the postseason or whatever. But speaking of Jimmy Graham, did you see that one where he caught a pass and then he started running and he fell down?
Slipped.
And then on Twitter, Rob Demoski goes, Jimmy Graham picks up 12 yards and is tackled, not on, but he goes, is tackled by the 35-yard line.
Oh, yep.
He's not used to catching.
Or running with it.
It is. It's embarrassing, like how slow that guy. He Richard Rodgers is somewhere going, man, that guy's slow. I don't know what else to say, but Lazard, he didn't do a whole lot in the game though. But I did watch him a little bit, and he's getting open. They're designing plays. He is the de facto number 2. Look, MVS is on a milk carton. Somebody said he's been hurt. Yeah, he's been hurt. But if you look at MVS's stats and Geronimo's stats for the entire year, they're unbelievably bad. It's like MVS has like 200 yards for the entire year. And he was...
Right. The previous 2 games, previous to yesterday, he's had 2 catches for 11 yards in the past 5 games.
Now, is some of that Rodgers? Maybe, but I think some of it's MVS isn't good. I mean, it's one thing to...
I can't say that quite yet. You have to remember in the Philadelphia game, he hurt his ankle pretty bad. He has a high ankle sprain, and if you've ever had the low ankle sprain is not easy. I'm not saying it is, but the high ankle sprain for a competitive athlete, whether it's basketball, football, soccer, whatever, is debilitating. So I don't know if that's contributing to his lack of production.
Has he been on the injury report? I can't even remember seeing him. But,
there's many weeks where he's a limited participant, but it's not like he's been missing practices on a consistent basis. He's been tough it out, So I can't rule him out yet. I think we went into this season with high expectations for him, but I look at him as like the Devontae Adams of 2014, where he had a terrible ankle, was just not that he was a shell of himself, and then he actually came out, in his third year after the injury. So I'm still waiting for him to come out, and I'm very optimistic that that'll happen because they need him. They need him, and there's no they need internal production ASAP. They can't go on the outside and pick anything up. So
he's not gonna look. MVS isn't gonna do anything the rest of the year. If he's injured now and he's done what he's done, it is what it is. But that, like Geronimo Allison, there's a guy they wanted to really. He's been a huge disappointment too. He has like similar stats, like 200 yards on the season, and he caught a nice pass today. And then he was lucky as hell that he was down. Do you remember this play? Gets up, runs down, fumbles it.
Knee down and fumbled it. Yeah.
Oh my God! Like if that play had stood, I'm like Rodgers would probably. There's no chance he's throwing to him like ever again this season. But even with that happening and getting called back because he was down, I'm like, that was just another chink in the armor there. So what I'm kind of getting at here is Lazard is your number 2. And, obviously he's played above his head. He's defied expectations, and he is showing that he can get open. The tongue-in-cheek comments I made about Lazard as tight end is mostly because, he's 6'5", and he's athletic. He's not fast. He's not a burner, but he can jump. He can go up and he can get that ball. We know that. And he's aggressive as hell. So using him in spots there be interesting. I don't know, because the middle of the field, who's catching passes in the middle field in this team?
Nobody.
Aaron Jones.
Yeah. On
the dump off. Check down.
But it's like they can't, it's weird. They can't defend the middle of the field in defense, and they can't throw anything in the middle of the field in offense. But let's see. Obviously, I think Rodgers is developing more of a rapport with Lazard, so it'll be good to see how that keeps going. I already mentioned Geronimo. I don't know what else to say about him. He's been a big disappointment. Defense actually did its job. Look, the Redskins aren't that good. They're facing how many starts has Haskins had this year? It can't be more than
handful.
Yeah, and he's a rookie starting quarterback on a bad team. That's not going to help things.
Andy had 2 bum ankles after I think it was Preston Smith fell on both of them and twisted them.
Ouch.
So he was obviously limping the whole game after that. He was injured.
Yeah, but I'm not going to complain about the defense. They held their own. If it's a bad team, it's a bad team, but they did fine. And that last pass at the fourth quarter to get them to 15 points on the touchdown. Did you see that guy's touchdown catch for the Redskins? He was like, it was a one-handed Odell Beckham kind of. It was an insane catch. That was, I tipped my hat to that. And it might have been on 4th down. I think it was 4th down on the goal line or something like that. But anyway, that was impressive. So final 2 things I got here. Special teams kick and punt return game finally woke up. I can't remember the name of the new guy, but they got rid of the old returner because he fumbled out of bounds and he stunk the other game. They brought in a new guy who actually runs somewhat north and south, and I think they're at positive yardage for the season now, which is incredible. Yeah. But hey, you really got nowhere to go but up. So they got a few punt return yards, so there's a trend.
They got more than a few. They got a gauntlet of. They had 51 yards on 4 punt returns. Tyler Irvin is the gentleman. Yeah. They picked him up off waivers from Jacksonville. And the one thing with him, I saw he had lanes to run through. Like the one thing with Tremont Smith and Darius Shepard, as soon as they were catching the ball,
they were going left to right. Yeah,
they were left and right, but they were surrounded. Like I saw the Gunners consistently getting downfield, getting in their face and stuff like that. Where yesterday he had some ability to make movement and get upfield. Like I saw probably the best blocking of any game this year by our punt blocking team. So that was a positive thing, and he looked very good when he caught the ball. He's very shifty, quick, and went forward. Like you said, that's the biggest thing is to go forward. So, positives there.
this crap of going left and right is not gonna fly. So yeah, it's good to. So that's good. I mean, not a whole lot to be said there, but and then J.K. Scott punted well again. He had gone into kind of a funk for a few games, and even though it wasn't freezing cold, it was still, I would call it cold, and he'd had trouble punting in the cold. So it was good to see that. And Mason Crosby, like I mean, Mason Crosby's, he might go to a Pro Bowl this year. That's how well he's kicking. So there's some positives in there. In that game, even though it was a very meh game against a crummy opponent, if you will. But the big thing is going to be going down the stretch here, the offense, and what the heck they do. Because right now, the team collectively looks like, I mean, they could win the division and potentially get a first round bye, but I could see them being a one and done very easily. I could see someone coming into Lambeau and beating them. I could see that, I could obviously see them going on the road and getting beaten, but I could easily see another team coming in here beating them like a drum at Lambeau too. It's just, I don't know. But at the same time, I am kind of jumping on that train of, hey, they're playing over their head. They got a new coach. They got a new scheme. They're further ahead than they probably should be. So let's ride it.
Right. But, I mean, you said you had them going 8-8. I am going 9-7. So now they're 10-3. They got 10 wins. They've exceeded my expectations. I'm just perfectly happy with it. You kind of have to take the good with the bad, and there's a lot of good because we have 10 wins. I mean, the past 2 years we've been clamoring just to even get near a playoff berth, and now we're talking about it. So that's a positive step, and I think fans, I know a few Viking and Chicago Bear fans, and they always say that Packer fans are entitled little you-know-whats, and I always kind of argued that, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. After the past couple years, especially this year, I totally get where they're coming from, because here we are 10-3. Detroit's sitting at home 3-8-1, and that we're talking about how horrible Aaron Rodgers is playing and how horrible the offense is playing. We're in a freaking playoff race,
we're in the race for damn near the number 1 seed.
Right, we are there. So how many teams would love to be in our position? And you have to cherish the good with the bad. And right now, we need to cherish the good that we're in position, and we're there. Well, what happens in the playoffs, I don't know. We'll see. But usually there's, every few years, there's always one team from whether it's AFC or NRC that just kind of sneaks up on you and comes out of nowhere and, maybe gets to the NFC Championship, or even maybe gets to the Super Bowl like we did in 2010 as a number 6 seed. So anything can happen once you get in there. You just got to get in there. It's like the lottery. Unless you freaking throw your quarters into the till, you're not going to win anything. So that's my analogy behind it, is just getting there.
So is that called the NFL officiating lottery?
Ooh.
Because you know what, I feel like we're, me included, not as much as you guys, but like we're all super rough on this team. And if anything, we've had more officiating go against the Packers than for the Packers. And there's of course been some of each, but like I think we could have even won another game, maybe 2 of the games based on officiating. Right. And maybe we would have lost another one. But
now the Detroit one, that was one that went for us big time.
Went for us. Yeah.
Okay.
In Philadelphia, we had towards the end of the game, there was a.
Yeah, but there was lots. I was at that game. There's lots of things on the other side.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Look, let's call it what it is too. That's an interesting segue, but the officiating is horrendous.
But okay, so I was watching that why didn't Randy Moss win a Super Bowl video, and I don't know why I watched it. It was just like glutton for punishment.
Because he didn't deserve it.
Well, and that's my first reaction. I'm like, because he's a self-entitled, you know what? But they kept pointing, and I'm sure the guy that was talking about him was probably a little bit of a Randy Moss fan, but there was bad officiating, and there has been for, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years. Like it's been slowly, I think, increasing, but it's been bad for a while. Big games that hinge on kind of a coin flip, and when you have like all-time best players and they're never able to like reach that. It's so bizarre to me, like, you had multiple chances and just didn't get there. And yeah, some of it's talent, some of it's the coach, and some of it's, yeah, there's all these pieces, but a disproportionately large piece of that seems to be the officiating. And
Yeah, the
that
one
has
with
really
Randy,
been bothering me.
with the Randy Moss thing, was there like
Yeah.
specific instances of? Can you give us some specific instances?
Oh yeah, well, I mean,
bad
they went.
call. There were bad calls.
Yeah, they went through
Okay.
several. Like he was with the Vikings and they lost, on a fluke play. And if a game ever falls down to one play, maybe you didn't deserve to win anyway. I get all that, but like, so if somebody's gonna win and it goes to the other team and it should have gone your way, like that's still painful, right?
Mhm.
So it's just man, it's just bothersome to me that we can't get that figured out. I don't.
If anything, they're trying to. Every year they're over officiating this.
I don't.
Get rid of the damn.
I don't see this stuff in other sports. I just don't.
They have got to get rid of the stupid pass interference. That's got to go.
But see, here's the deal. All of these penalties that we're talking about, pass interference, whatever it may be, there is a gauntlet of scenarios that an official has to go through in order for it to meet a certain requirement. Why do we have to have a rule book that is literally 200 pages long?
I don't know.
You need to simplify the damn thing.
For freaking crying out loud.
So, and I look at this like as a business person, right? So I'm like, so you're trying to expand your franchise to Europe and to Mexico and who knows where else. I've been watching football my whole life. I don't even know the rules. I don't know the rules.
Hey, there's people that have been watching that don't know the rules. So
and it makes me lose my mind. And I know I'm not alone because I've seen the coach's lips as they say, "What is the fucking rule?"
Yeah.
So God, we got to fix that. Maybe the Packers are playing above their ability. Maybe they're going to get beat in the first round, and they'll deserve it. But what I'm more afraid of is something's going to come down to the wire and they're going to deserve to win and they're not going to win. And that is not a sport to me. That's a lottery. And I'm getting kind of tired of that. And it makes games that, should have been clear wins look closer than they were. It's just all these things.
Okay. I follow you. Here's a question for you. I was just thinking while you were saying there. So with the Green Bay Packers, they're obviously kind of like a gem of a franchise with the NFL. They're an old storied, but in terms of like, and this is, I don't want to say it's like conspiracy theory type stuff, but like, how important is the Green Bay Packers to the NFL? Like, say you have, I'm trying to think of, if you got a large market like the LA, they're in the same conference, but pretend the LA Rams are like in the AFC, right? But they're an LA huge market team. It's like if it came down to an LA team versus the Packers and the call, like, how important is the Packers to the league? I'd really like to know.
Well, we have a big fan base, right?
Yeah.
But there are other teams with probably similar sized fan bases.
Yeah.
So how important? I guess it depends on who you're talking about. Yeah.
I wonder about that sometimes, where I'm like.
But on the other hand, if they're
travel so well too, it's like, they go to other teams, and it's like other teams are like, there's no way we're gonna move our London game to this or that, or and all these other moving things, because they're like, the Packers travel so well, it's good for other teams when they go on the road. But
as an NFL conspiracy theory, though, I would think they would want things to even out more rather than have these like dynasties like the Patriots or the Packers or the Cowboys, right?
They've gotten there. I mean, there's no such. I mean, the Patriots are.
They're an anomaly.
They're an anomaly. Yeah, that'll never happen probably in our lifetime again, if it does. So parity is exactly what the NFL wanted. They got it because you have teams that, like San Francisco, they were 6-10 last year.
Right.
They're gonna.
You'd never pick them to be on top. You'd never pick them to be on top.
No. And we were 7-9 last year, or 6-9-1, and we're gonna have double-digit victories. So the turnarounds are pretty quick. They happen, pretty frequently. We're not the only ones, but that's what the NFL wants. But I when you started talking about this conspiracy thing, I just thought about this. Obviously, you have the Patriots, for example, okay? And they have the largest television rating based off of the viewership that watch their games. So when you're going through the playoffs, does that ever come back into play that, you know what? When the head of officials talks to the officials saying, hey, we want the Patriots to win because it's more profitable for them to win. I don't know.
Look at the tuck rule. Christ. All those things that they've been involved with. Yeah, that's just kind of like some things I think about. And then I think about the Hail Mary game, right? Remember the refs were on strike, and immediately, basically 10 minutes after that game was over, the end of the strike, and they signed the officials to
whatever they wanted.
so my friend Lee is a huge Saints fan, has a Saints tattoo, the whole deal, right? And before that happened, I said, what's the big deal? As long as it's a wash and they make bad calls for both teams, it's not much different than before. And he's like, you just wait until something happens to the Packers, and then it'll change the next day. He literally said that. And a week later,
Hail Mary thing?
No, he said that before the Hail Mary.
Okay, but this was during.
And then it happened.
And then it happened to them.
And then it happened to the Packers, and it changed.
But then it happened to the Saints last year.
Yeah.
Well, of course, yes, but not because of the strike. But yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny about that whole Hail Mary thing was, it was like this passive aggressive thing that the NFL did, where they did it so fast, so quick. It was such a huge, egregious thing that they probably. Has it ever happened in the history of the league where they can change the outcome of a game? Because that's essentially what they did. They did everything but change the outcome of that game. You know what I mean? That was 2012. That was the Kaepernick year. And that game made us have to play.
Water is wet.
No, I think we're good, boys. We could go down a mountain of other topics.
Yeah. Well, you wanna talk about Bears?
Yeah, maybe for a little bit. So what were they like? This is a huge game, and it goes without saying, if we win the division, correct?
No, not yet.
Oh, we're in the. What am I thinking then? Well, either way.
Because if we were to lose the last two games, and obviously if Minnesota wins the last two, then they would be the champion. But the Bears, technically speaking, are still in the division race.
Okay. And they've won, five in a row?
Yeah. 5 of the past 6 or 7 or something like that.
This is not some gimme game. And what we had said earlier, I think you had mentioned in the beginning, Jeremy, was, the Packers aren't going to blow anybody out. They can't take any single team for granted. It wouldn't matter if a team was 0-16 or 0-15 coming in or whatever, So there is no gimme game. Doesn't exist. Does not exist. There's nothing even close to it. So every game they have left is going to be a fight.
Yep. And I mean, the Bears always play well against us, especially the past half decade at Lambeau. So there's no such thing as a gimme at Lambeau either, especially with the Bears.
So the Packers favored by 4.5.
Okay.
And I'm reading. This is just when I Google search Packers versus Bears. I think the first things were BearsWire.USA Today. So this is probably Bears skewed stuff. So, but anyway, the Bears are very much in the hunt. They are technically in there for a wild card anyway. And but the other headline is long week gives Bears chance to get healthy ahead of matchups versus Packers. So because they played earlier in the week last week, they have a little bit extra time. So it could be rough.
Yeah, their offensive line was banged up last week against Dallas, and they're going to be able to get that line back and against us, and that's a whole new ball game if they have all 5 starting linemen. They're a pretty good line. So
speak of the devil, did you see they activated that tackle? That the Packers that signed that swing tackle.
Oh, Jared Valdir.
Yep, I think they add him to the 53-man roster.
Good.
So he'll probably be active the rest of the year and into the playoffs, I imagine.
What about Ryan Grant? I mean, we went out and signed him, and he's been inactive for every single game. What was the point of picking him up?
Well, I think what happened was they signed him, and then they forgot that he was a running back who used to play for the Packers. And then they're like, oh, shit. And then he can't play wide receiver, so we're just gonna have to.
Right.
I have no idea, man.
So the last time we played, it was like 10-3, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so, you guys want to give a prediction or anything for this?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with my prediction that I originally had in my APP prediction blog. I think I had them winning, but I didn't have a score. I'm going to go 19-16. It's going to be a real ugly, mash it out type of a game. And Mason Crosby hits a game-winning field goal.
I'm going to go 17-14. I'm in a similar kind of thing. Their defense is good. The Packers' offense is I don't know. That's just, I don't want to say I'm pulling it out, but I'm kind of like, I think they're going to win, but it's going to be close. And I just don't see them scoring a lot of points. So.
Elliot?
I want to look back at last week to see who was closer, me or Andy, because I forgot to do that. But
I can't remember.
I think that, you guys are saying 3 points, huh? I got to go like 17-10.
All right.
All under 20-point game. Okay.
Well, that makes sense, though. Based on, our defense should be pretty good. Theirs is good.
Their offense stinks.
Their offense is terrible. Ours is not quite terrible. Based on what you guys keep telling me. I think they're amazing. We're going to win. They're amazing. We're going to win the Super Bowl. We're just, sandbagging it. We can't show the Ravens all our moves.
Aaron Rodgers wants to, carry this team on his back. He's going to start, throwing passes to himself. I don't know. It's like he's going to line up as a wide receiver. And
if it wins the game, I don't care.
Aaron Jones throwing passes.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome if they whip that out. Has he ever lined up for any play ever in his career where he's been done something like that?
No, I don't think so. Not like Tom Brady did, or
yeah, he's done that a bunch of times in his career. He's lined up as a freaking wide receiver.
Yeah, God. That would be nice to pull that out in this type of a game. But honestly, I would think that they would save that stuff for the playoffs because they're gonna need to pull out all the rabbits out of the hat to move on. So
yeah. Cool. All right, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I do have one last thing. So we the podcast is on Spotify. I said before, but it's on Pandora now too. So and that's all on the bottom of the website. So if they're on anything, we want to be able to get the show. So there you go.
Yeah. Is there anything that we're not on?
Not that I know of. If there's something that we're not on, you have to let me know.
Okay.
And I will give you $5 cash money if you beat me to it. Yeah. Yeah.
You got a winner.
All right.
Money.
Well,
right.
or like a latte or something, whatever. I don't know.
Fair enough.
I'm a heavy spender. I got heavy medical bills until Andy gets socialized medicine passed.
Wow.
You know that I am healthy for all.
All right. Go back, go.
Good.
Podcast.
Chair.
I know, right?